Hello everyone and welcome to the HJW Gaming channel. Several updates ago, the Lord of the Rings Rise to War devs updated the ring skills, and since then I've had enough time to test the new layouts. Following on from here are 5 mistakes I think you should avoid whilst levelling up your new ring in order to use your ring points as efficiently as possible. I really hope you enjoy. So my first piece of advice is to avoid using time out of time too often. Time out of time is a ring skill that allows you to use one ability point to instantly finish a build on your keep that has less than 10 minutes to run. This is great for many players as it can help you avoid having to use some of your precious speed ups or also spend gems, so therefore you can use the ability points that currently just sit around in your keep. However, the mistake to avoid is that you should not be using this for pretty much every single build. You can use it every now and again on those that have just under 10 minutes to run, but don't be flicking on this every time there's a 30-second or 2-minute build, because otherwise you'll very quickly drain your ability points. You never want to be sat at maximum ability points, as these of course will regenerate, and if you don't have them regenerating you're essentially wasting a resource. However, if you do this too often, you can find yourself draining your ability points, and therefore you won't have enough left for extracting or gathering of resources, which is far more important so that you can conscript troops and keep things building. So definitely avoid using time out of time far too often and wasting your precious ability points. The second common mistake I see is not skilling your ring into gather as soon as possible and continuing to use extract to gain resources when in need. So gather formerly used to be a skill that you had on your ring right from the beginning along with mock battles. However, it's now been added as a specific ring skill and it cannot be unlocked until ring level 10. So right at the beginning of your season, you're forced to use the extract option to get resources from your tiles. However, I see a lot of players, when they hit ring level 10, putting all of their ring points into enormous power in order to maximise their number of ability points, and completely ignoring that for just one more ring point, you can gain the gather option. In my opinion, taking gather as soon as possible is essential for a quick start in this game. With gather, you do have to wait to gain the resources from a tile, and you're limited by the stamina of the commander you choose to gather, though of course you can just use a needless commander. The gathering, what it does, it gives you far more resource, around 3 times as much resource per gathering ability point. So you can get triple the amount of resource and save some of your ability points compared to using extract. So therefore I think gathering is the most important ring skill once you hit ring level 10. So I'd recommend taking this every single time and avoid continuing to use extract, as if you do this you will be wasting ability points, which are very crucial as you go through the season. The third mistake I'd recommend avoiding revolves around the Clairvoyance ring skill. The Clairvoyance ring skill can once again be taken once you hit ring level 10, and what it allows you to do is get a report of up to 2 armies sat on a single tile for the cost of 2 ability points. This can be excellent for scouting out the armies on a tile before you hit it in order to reduce your number of losses, or to find a tile that you think you can take earlier than other tiles of that power level. However, I do very often see overuse of this skill, which can be a massive drain of ability points. For example, using this on a single army tile, so 150 power and below tiles, is a massive waste, as you only see one army, and you can find that army yourself by just sending a scout with a very low number of troops to hit that tile, and if the army's easy, then you can hit it with your powerful commander, and you haven't lost many troops on the scout. That's an easier way that you can find out what armies are on a tile without spending the ability points on Clairvoyance. The other way I see Clairvoyance misused very often is by using it on 200 power tiles before you've scouted. So if you're looking to take, say, your first 200 or 300 power tile, instead of just straight in clicking on every 200-300 power tile and using Clairvoyance, what you can do instead is if you send a scout again to hit the tile, it will give you a report of the first army. If that first army is extremely difficult and not an army you wish to take on, you can just skip the tile and let it reset. If you'd used Clairvoyance, you would have got a report of both the armies for the cost of 2 ability points and instantly seen that the first army was not worth hitting. So each time you scout, if you hit an army that you think is good, you can then use Clairvoyance to see the second army just behind. This way you'll save an enormous number of ability points rather than wasting them every single time you're looking to take a strong tile. The fourth mistake to avoid occurs at ring level 30 and revolves around the new Mind Sharpener function, which has replaced mock battles. What Mind Sharpener allows you to do is to select on one of your tiles and send one of your commanders to gain XP in exchange for stamina and ability points. The mistake I'd recommend avoiding is, as soon as you hit ring level 30, putting all of your ring points into the quick-witted skill to boost your Mind Sharpener experience. Far more important than this is making sure instead to maximise abundant endurance and also have maximised enormous power. After this, I still wouldn't recommend going into quick-witted. Instead, I would put points into powerful sweeping or considerable XP. The reason for this is, I think that once you're around the 200 tile level, Mind Sharpener is not the most efficient use of your ability points. At this point, you should be using your ability points instead to gather resources using the gather function. That way you can keep troops conscripting and also continue using the resources to build your keep in order to get more powerful troops, up your military academy, or move on to the next stage of your main hall. This is a far more efficient use rather than wasting your ability points just getting some low level XP on your commanders. This ring skill should instead be taken when you've got around a 300 power tile and you don't need as many resources for building up your keep, so you can afford to spend your ability points on mind sharpening your commanders. And my fifth and final mistake to avoid revolves around the new ring skills that are unique to each faction. And the mistake I would avoid is actually putting any points at all into this ring skill if you do not need it. So for those who don't know, the faction bonuses have been removed and instead they've been replaced now with a unique ring skill that has to be specifically selected at the cost of 2 ring points. Some ring skills, such as Song of Elves for Lothlorien, which reduces wounded soldier treatment time by 10%, is definitely worth taking, though of course I'd recommend watching when you do take it, as those 2 ring points could be more useful elsewhere. However, some of the other faction bonuses aren't quite as valuable, so I'd recommend just potentially not taking them if you're not going to use them, as those 2 ring points could instead be spent better elsewhere, such as on stronger combat skills, which can be useful for taking tiles and also for PvP, or indeed just for maximising your resources by taking one of the abundant resource ring skills instead. And with that, that's my opinion on 5 mistakes to avoid when using the new ring skills. If you found this useful, please consider dropping a like and hitting the subscribe button, as I do upload regular Rise to War content. If you do, it'd be very much appreciated, and I really hope to see you on the next one.